What's up, guys? Welcome to a scenario where Mexico forms an empire. In this scenario, all alliances are disabled, that way a country can actually form their empire. But let's get into the video. First thing we see is Mexico declaring war on Guatemala and Belize. In this scenario, Mexico is really buffed, so this is going to be super easy for them. But geography exists, so they're just going to push along the coast, mainly using their navy against them, since these countries I'm pretty sure have a very weak navy or just don't have a navy at all. But they're just going to push up here, taking all their coast, and Belize is going to surrender. Guatemala is going to be a little bit of a more difficult problem as they split their country into two, but they also push along their border here, and then they flood in over here. And they just push all along here, mainly just killing off this encirclement, splitting the encirclement into two. But let's see the main front, and they're going to push all the way from here. They're going to push here from their northern coast. Yeah, southern coast. Yeah, my bad. But they're going to divide them up into multiple parts, capitulating here, 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 and they surrender. And let's see this peace treaty. Next thing we see happening is Mexico invading into Cuba. I'm pretty sure this is all their islands, but anyways. Now Cuba is very weak, they're in a famine, so they're just going to be welcomed in with open arms as they invade. But not after we see this. The US joins the war against Cuba. Now, with their superior navy, they are going to roll over Cuba a lot harder than Mexico, but this is mainly because they're much more stronger, but the Cubans are also starving, so this is a very big opportunity for them to get fed. And then we also see a little bit of clashing between Mexican and US forces. Mexican forces push into the US forces, but then the US forces push back. Now, the current administration wouldn't really like this, but I don't really think the current administration would really want to do anything in this moment because they just got done with Cuba. So let's go ahead and see this peace treaty. This is going to be the Cuban peace treaty that we see, and then we also see Mexico declaring war on Jamaica, and Jamaica surrenders and they fully annex them. Now let's go ahead and see some more wars. Here we see Mexico declaring war on Honduras and El Salvador. El Salvador is going to be really easy to take out, and they're going to use this to sort of make landings on the coast of Honduras. But they're also going to have a very powerful front line from their territory, not just from naval front lines, because of how much they've boosted their military so fast. So they're just going to get this area and that area, and let's go ahead and see this peace treaty. This is going to be the peace treaty for the Honduras-El Salvador war. Panama didn't accept it, and they're going to actually regret not accepting it, because they are going to be invaded, and Colombia is just going to be like, hey, you're invading my old bit of land? Let's make this grand again. And they're going to try to invade into Panama, like so. They're going to push with Mexico. Mexico is going to make some amphibious landings in Panama. So is Colombia. And they're just going to push and push and push. And let's go ahead and see this peace treaty. This is going to be the peace treaty, and we see the Panama Canal actually being managed by both these countries here. And the US is going to be a little bit mad about that. But here we actually see Colombia becoming allies with Mexico. Now, this wouldn't really bring too many other countries in here. If I'm not mistaken, South America might be open to joining. I'm not really sure on how they view Colombia. But With the current administration, we also see Canada joining this alliance out of fear and protection. So everybody's going to be like, alright, this makes sense. It's a nice alliance. It's just a defensive alliance. And the US is going to be like, no, this is not just a defensive alliance. They're trying to take our land. We must protect American freedom, no matter the cost. Now, this might seem like a stretch, but Canada is going to join, and then Venezuela might actually join, just because their relations with Colombia. But I think that's pretty realistic. So here we're also going to see a few more countries join. Here we see Denmark joining this alliance for protection against the US. And, China is going to aid the alliance, but they won't get added directly to the alliance. But, who could we see joining? France. Yeah, France would join. And Czechia would definitely join. I mean, they've had some pretty good views recently. But that's France. I don't know about the UK. Maybe Spain. Yeah, the UK might actually. Yeah, the UK is going to join. This is going to be a really big alliance. And it's also aided by almost all of the world. Yeah, it's aided by China, India, probably not Russia because they're in lots of debt and have zero money. Well, the US is in lots of debt, but that's different because we don't know what to do. So we also see the Dominican Republic and Haiti join the alliance, and then we see on one horrible day, the USA declares war on Canada. Now, instead of just this alliance joining this war to defend Canada, we see a few other countries join. Here we see Australia joining, China joining, South Korea, and Japan. Now, this is a pretty big alliance, so let's see this war. Now, this alliance is getting aid and volunteers all around the world, but first thing we actually see is Mexico performing a very good invasion because of all the Chinese and South American troops just showing up to fight for Mexico. And then we see the riots in California want to join the Mexican army to assist in taking back old Mexican lands and saving the Mexican immigrants from ICE. Now, that is a very controversial subject, but I also see Canada pushing in, and then the US, they're going to have a decent invasion of Canada right here. And they're just going to really push into Canada a lot in these early days of the war. Nothing really stopping them over here. So they just roll on by. Canada's completely cooked. They got land over here though. But here we see naval landings happening from the European areas. Britain is like 13 colonies time, let's go. And they're just going to push into the American superpower, taking it down very harshly. And the US is going to be like, oh wow. And they're also going to do some liberating invasions into Canada, sort of cutting off the US here. And the US is going to be like, what are we doing in Canada? Holy. And then they're going to pull all the troops that they can from Canada just to try to reinforce this area. And they're going to be like, alright, maybe we need a peace. And I also forgot, Alaska. Yeah. Why is Russia colored in here? Russia's not supposed to be colored in. Hold up. Let me fix that. First thing we see here is Florida getting ceded over to Spain. And then Cuba's going to join up with Mexico. This is going to be the Peace Treaty of America, so I did not color all the countries that were in this war that didn't get land a new color, but I just did this for simplification. So Canada gets a little bit of Oregon. They just spread their border down a lot. They drip it down a lot. France gets Louisiana and some other states. Britain gets their 13 colonies, but more. Denmark gets these. Now, Canada did get a little bit of the New England area. So not all of the 13 colonies, but we also see Spain getting ceded Florida. Yeah. And then we see Mexico reforming the Mexican Empire, but way better. So, yeah, this is the peace treaty. China did get Alaska and Hawaii. This is actually a pretty cool peace treaty. I like it. I do think this would be realistic. Just if the US did declare war on Canada or Mexico, the whole world would sort of aid Canada and Mexico. One, because they either hate the US or they love Americans and hate the current administration. But this will be it for today's video. I really liked recording this. Now, leave a like, comment, just anything you want. Don't forget to like and subscribe. On the road to 200. Goodbye.